Welcome. Thanks for making the effort to come out today. I'm Bethany Waterhouse-Bradley from SEUPB. I'm one of the program managers and I'll be in charge of the environmental theme. So some of you will see me across a number of the different themes in Theme 5. Just a few housekeeping things. There's no planned fire alarms today, so if you do hear an alarm, it's the real thing. So you'll see exits there and there. Go down the stairs, and the meeting point is in the car park, which is just out in the back behind the building. You'll also notice some of you have purple stickers on your name badges. This is to encourage people to network. If someone's got a purple sticker on their badge, it's because they're potentially looking for partners in the consortium. And as we go through the day, you'll see that we are looking for quite strategic, high-level regional projects, and consortiums is really the best approach for doing that. So we'll talk about that a bit more, but that's what those purple numbers dots are. And then following on from that, as we move forward after today, you'll see QR codes around the place. If you just use the photo app on your phone to do a thing on the QR, it'll bring you to a Google form where you can fill out information about your organization, your project that you want to share as part of a partner's board, so that partners can kind of contact each other after today. So you'll be reminded of those things throughout the day, but just to flag those for you now. I'm going to hand over now to Declan McGarrigle, who is the Director of PEACEPLUS Development, and he's going to talk you through PEACEPLUS so far.
Thanks very much, Bethany, and just to extend a welcome to you all, and thanks for attending today. I think I was saying to someone earlier, I think this is the 15th workshop that we've done for the various investment areas of the programme. But these are the first that are focused, obviously, on the environmental elements of the programme. So it's great to see you all here today, and for such a good attendance as well. So the purpose of today really is to start to engage with potential applicants around the development really of projects. Now, many of you have already probably started along that road. But today is really trying to relay some of the key information to yourselves and to kickstart the pre-application support. And the pre-application support has been, as I said, rolled out across a range of investment areas so far. And it's been working quite well. And it's really a process to allow you to start to scope out your idea and to get some informal feedback really from SEUPB. We've got a range of different people working with us to provide that feedback and to provide that pre-application support. And Emer Bush is here today at the end of the table, and Emer will be the key contact really that you'll have over the course of the next number of weeks around this. And Emer will set out in much more detail in her overview of the support that she'll provide later on in the session. So today really is about giving you that information really that you require at this stage in terms of to be able to develop what we call your concept notes. And those concept notes then can be submitted to Emer for review and feedback. I'd also like to welcome today our accountable departments, our policy departments. And we have Emer O'Keefe from DHLGH, and we also have Silke Hartman from DERA and NIEA. And the programme itself, we've been working in partnership with the departments. The two departments are match funders for the PEACEPLUS programme and for this particular investment area on 5.3. And they'll shortly outline their policy interests, so some of what you need to engage with and look at and review as part of the development of your concept note and indeed your application further down the line. To be mindful, obviously, of the context here from a policy point of view and some of the key strategies and policies that you need to reflect on. And then, as I said, later on, Emer will provide an overview, a much more detailed overview of 5.3, this investment area, and the pre-application support, and indeed the process for the concept note as well. So today really is that opportunity to start to engage, and I think as Bethany said as well, this is a relatively short session this morning, but some of the benefit as well can really be felt from networking. So if you haven't really got a partnership together yet, or you're very much at the outset of the development process in terms of your project idea, please do try and use today as an opportunity to engage with others. We've got a wide range of people in the room from across the sector, from a range of different organisations, and I think it's important that you try and use the time today to build those partnerships that are going to be key in terms of having a successful application to SEUPB. So before we proceed on and get some information from the two accountable departments, I wanted just to provide you with a brief overview really of how we've got here in terms of the PEACEPLUS Programme and the development process. And many of you will have been involved and engaged with us really right back now to, I think, 2018, 2019, when we started the development process for the programme. We had a range of stakeholder events and engagements. We had consultations. We had a lot of individual meetings. We had a lot of engagement with the government departments from a policy point of view. And really with the support of the NI Executive, the Government of Ireland, the UK Government and the European Commission, the PEACEPLUS Programme really was developed. The programme itself, and if you look right across the various themes and investment areas, you'll note that there's a lot of similarity with the current PEACE 4 and the Interreg 5A programme. So it's important to note that, that these programmes are very much trying to build on what's come before. Many people in the room are involved or have been involved in projects under the programme, and very successful projects. So it's really about, yes, it's about new projects in some areas, but it's also about building on some of those really successful initiatives that we've had to date. There is a renewed focus on peace and reconciliation and peace and prosperity. So we no longer have two separate programmes. We don't have a peace and an Interreg programme, and whilst interlinked, they've been separate in the past. Going forward, we have one single PEACEPLUS programme, and I suppose at the overarching objective of the programme is really to build peace and prosperity, to really build a more sustainable and stable society and programme area. So it is important for these areas of the programme, which may have fell within the Interreg family of programmes in the past, that you're still thinking about that peace and prosperity angle hard through environmental initiatives. Does that lead to a more sustainable and stable and prosperous society? So important to think about that, and Emer will help you with that, and we'll touch on that in her presentation. And projects, obviously, cross-border in nature and contributing to that wider economic and territorial development, that sustainable development of the programme area. And as I said, the process over the last number of years, has been an intensive review, research, public engagement, all those stakeholder engagement events. I think we had 16 in total across the programme area. We had, thousands through the door, in person at that particular point in time. A huge amount of survey submissions. And again, many of you will have, submitted responses to us as part of that process. And all of that was taken into account, when we developed the structure and what arrived out of that ahead of a public consultation then in 2021, which the results of rubber stamped those themes and investment areas and the allocations, the financial allocations of what were given to the programme. So the programme area is Northern Ireland and the border counties of Ireland, and I think you'll hear us refer to the programme area on a number of occasions, probably this morning at this session, and in some of the documentation that we have as well. And that's where really the impact has to be felt. But it is important to say that, and that point at the bottom there, just the last bullet point about participation from partners from outside the programme area, that's eligible. And indeed, in some cases, that's something that would be very much encouraging. So if you've got existing partnerships, with partners from outside the programme area, and they can add value and they can bring experience, and through that added value and that experience and the work that they do, that can deliver impact within the programme area, then that's something I think that you can think about as part of your project development process. So very much added value. The Commission talk about functional areas, and it's essentially where, they're basically saying, look, if there's reasons from an environmental point of view or from a healthcare point of view in other areas of the programme, to include partners from outside the programme area, then that's something that they want to encourage, that it may, in some cases for some projects, your project may have to go beyond the borders of the programme area. There's a really significant allocation of financial allocation to the programme, over €1 billion, and that's more than twice the size of the combined total of our current PEACE and Interreg programmes. So it's an incredible and a significant commitment from the European Commission and indeed from the UK government, the executive and the government of Ireland as well. I think it's important to acknowledge that. And the allocation of that funding has been made across 6 themes and 22 investment areas. And you can see those on the slide, and where the investment area that we're focused on today falls within that. So we've got theme 1, which is very focused on peace and reconciliation, in terms of traditional areas of the programme that you would have seen in Peace 4. Theme 2 about delivering socio-economic regeneration and transformation, business focus, a focus on innovation. In there, it's also a focus on the green economy, for example, and skills as well. Theme 3 then is about a renewed focus on children and young people. And again, you would have seen that quite a lot under our current Peace 4 programme and even under the Peace 3 programme, going back a number of years. Theme 4 is healthy and inclusive communities. Everything in there from collaborative health and social care, to support for victims and survivors. And then theme 5, which is where our investment area 5.3 falls. And theme 5 is focused on supporting a sustainable future. So there's an allocation of €300 million across 6 investment areas, and you can see those on the slide. So this afternoon, and I'm sure many of you might be sitting in on this afternoon's session as well, we've got the investment area 5.1 on protection of biodiversity, nature recovery and resilience, sustainable transport and water quality improvement programmes, and also around geothermal energy. And then finally, theme 6, which is building and embedding partnership and collaboration. And there's investment areas in there around strategic planning and also around maintaining and forging relationships between citizens. So again, a breadth of activity here. And what I always would say to people, at these workshops is, yes, you're interested today on 5.3, but please do look at the overview of the other investment areas as well. There's a lot of pre-application support out there at the moment, so there's a lot that you can engage with. So if you've got ideas, maybe your idea doesn't fit today after you hear the various presentations and the focus, do look elsewhere. There could be opportunities there as well. I just always think this is a useful slide just to show at the outset, because it just shows where we are in terms of the process. And we call this the project life cycle. So many of you, if you've been involved in project development before, or you've been involved in Interreg programmes or PEACE programmes in the past, you'll be relatively familiar with this, but there might be some new people in the room that haven't been through this process before. And I suppose where we are at the minute is that pre-development part of the life cycle, just at the top of the slide. So we're looking to elaborate on the project ideas, the concept note, which will flow hopefully from today, and Emer will engage with you on. And also, as we said, the opportunity to kind of search for partners, to build your partnership. It's absolutely critical to a cross-border project that you do that effectively. And then beyond that, we'll have the call, which will launch. Then we'll have, more project development and the application process then. You'll have to submit an application which outlines the strategy and the content of your project, the responsibilities and the application requirements. And then if you're successful, then it's on to contracting and starting up your project, and then of course through to your implementation of your project. So everything that you've said in your application form that you'll do, and it's in your contract, then you'll implement and focus on that during the implementation phase. So it's a useful sort of slide. All these slides will be up on our website afterwards, so something to refer back to just as you work through the process. So today, as I say, the focus is on investment area 5.3 and under theme 5, which is around building a sustainable and better connected future. So it's at the forefront, really, the environmental measures and indeed sustainable transport as well, and connectivity. That's been at the forefront of our previous Interreg programmes, and it's something that's continued into PEACEPLUS as well. So it's about creating places where really we want people to live, visit and invest in, about that sustainability, that creation of a more stable and prosperous society and, sustainability that works for everyone, and it can contribute to a place that people want to be. And again, just where 5.3 water quality and catchment management falls, and you can see again, just within that slide, the various other investment areas. And it's important to note, every investment area will have a separate call for applications. There will be a degree of interlinkedness, if that's a word, between the different areas. But it's important to note that there's separate calls for applications. So for this investment area today, there will be a standalone call, that you'll submit an application to, and all of the things that you'll hear today is what you'll have to focus on in terms of your application. So 5.3, in terms of the catchment management, it's about collaborative approaches to the management and improvement of water quality. It's about actions focused on cross-border catchments located within the programme area. And, as we say, there's some flexibility around that, depending on the environmental rationale around that. It's about indicative actions, so there's a range of indicative actions that we'll set out today, and that will be elaborated on, when the call document is released at a later date. But at a high level today, it's about catchment management strategies and about piloting of nature-based solutions. It's about actions that complement other initiatives, so thinking about that complementarity as well, and to facilitate behaviour and mindset change as well. There's a range of indicators, and I merely point this out at this stage really, again, just to give a little bit of focus in terms of your own thinking as you're thinking of ideas and working up ideas, that always refer back to what we call the performance framework for the programme. So essentially what the output indicators are and what the result indicators are, because that's what your application, your project has to make a contribution towards. And for this area of the programme, we're looking at 3 jointly developed solutions, in terms of those nature-based solutions, and 1 strategy and action plan that's jointly developed. And then that will result in those action plans, those solutions then being taken up and sustained beyond the lifetime of the project. So again, that's just what you're thinking. We'll elaborate a little bit on those later on in the session. And again, just to set out, again, at a high level at this stage, and to give you some indicative ideas around the direction of travel. The total funding for this area of the programme is €21 million. And we're looking to fund around 4 projects. So we're looking at strategic projects here, and again, that just drives home the importance of the partnership approach, to make sure that the right sort of partnerships are being developed that can deliver on what we would like to see at the other end of things. And projects will run, for around 3 years. And again, that's an indicative sort of timeline at the minute. There's some scope and flexibility around all of that. So at this point, I'm going to pass over to Emer O'Keefe, who is a water policy advisor in the water division within the department. And Emer's going to give you an overview really of the policy interests around water management from an Irish point of view. So Emer, over to you. Thank you.
I think Declan stole my thunder on my first slide, so I'll move to the second one. Thanks to everybody for coming. As Declan said, I'll go through the water policy from a Southern Ireland point of view. I'll just give you an overview of the Water Framework Directive, its importance, the River Basin Management Plan, the WFD status in Ireland at the moment, water quality trends then from the latest EPA report that was published last year. Looking at our most significant pressures and in particular the agriculture side of it, and just the implementation of measures and ongoing work. There's a number of projects, I suppose, ongoing at the moment that you should be aware of, and just to look then at the priority areas in terms of catchments. So as you know, the Water Framework Directive was transposed into Irish law in 2003. It's really the most important piece of legislation that we have around water policy in Ireland. The primary objectives of it are to prevent the deterioration of surface water and groundwater status, to protect, enhance and restore all surface water and groundwater bodies to achieve at least good ecological status or good ecological potential, and to protect and enhance all artificially and heavily modified water bodies to achieve at least good ecological potential and good surface water chemical status. So really that's the basis for our legislation and our policies around that. Under the WFD, as you know, each member state is required to develop a river basin management plan, and the plan identifies the pressures on water bodies and sets out measures that need to be implemented to achieve the water quality objectives. Our third river basin management plan is, Our third river basin management plan is currently in draft form. It should be published, the final should be published shortly. It's very, very much based on implementing the right measure in the right place, and that links in really well to the nature-based solutions that you'll be looking at in this call. The main goals of the River Basin Management Plan come in the third cycle, comes down to reduce the excessive agriculture, nutrient and sediment losses, to prevent in-stream habitat damage from land drainage or river channel drainage, and to reduce or eliminate the point source of pollution of farms, to eliminate the exceedance of pesticide standards in drinking water supplies, and to protect and restore valuable and sensitive high status water catchments. So again, like this, if we were to solve all of these problems, we'd be a long way to getting or achieving the WFD status by 2027. To note as well, a lot of the CAP strategic plan for Ireland is also moving very much towards the green architecture and towards implementing nature-based solutions on farms to deal with some of these issues. In addition, the Nitrates Action Plan is another important piece of legislation as well that you should be aware of. Just to look at the water quality status in Ireland then, this is from the latest EPA report. It is monitoring from 2016 to 2021. Why is this moving on? Sorry. You'll see the overall view. Things are not good, really. The latest report shows that over half of the surface waters are in a satisfactory ecological health, which means that the other half is not, and that's what we need to really work on. If you look at the pie charts there's 50% of rivers are at high or good ecological status, and unfortunately that's a 1% decline since the previous monitoring round. 69% of lakes are at high or good ecological status, and again that's a 2.7% decline. Estuaries and transitional waters there's only 36% at high or good ecological status, and that's a massive 15.7% decline, which is quite worrying. Coastal water, there's 81% at high or good ecological status, and that's again a 9.5% decline. So we're going in the wrong direction. Just to look at the border regions, you can see that there's a large number, particularly here in the Erne catchment, is at moderate and poor. And also up in Donegal as well. So they're key areas around the border regions that we need to address. Just quickly then, the trends in the water quality status. I won't dwell on this one too much, but basically the percentage at high or good is coming down, and the percentage of the water bodies at moderate and poor are going up. So again, our trends are going in the wrong direction. You'll get more information on this on catchments.ie, which I've linked here at the bottom of the slide. So looking at our pressures then, and this is taken from the EPA water quality report that was published at the end of last year. There's just over 1,600 water bodies that are impacted by, this thing has a mind of its own, sorry. And my things have gone off funny. But anyway, there's in the 1,600 water bodies that are impacted by agricultural activities. So that's a massive 63% of all water bodies that are not achieving at least good status, are impacted by agricultural activities. Now it is the highest land use in Ireland as well, so we have to be mindful of that. But I suppose then it shows that, well, there's an awful lot of scope there within the agricultural sector for the implementation of nature-based solutions, and that's something I think if we could crack that, we'd be going a long way. Just to note, on the chart, the kind of red crosshatch is the second cycle and the blue is the third cycle. As you can see, the number of pressures for agriculture are going up. Also of note are the hydromorphology, which is second in line, and we found that a lot of the hydromorphological pressures are actually due to agricultural pressures as well. So just to look at what, and particularly in the regions that you'll be working in, the impacts to water from agriculture, your nutrient and sediment runoff. We have drainage in peaty soils, which lead to phosphorus, ammonium and sediment losses. Poaching of land around feeders, around gaps and in poorly draining soils, which causes runoff to nutrient and your sediment, which again are risks to water bodies. Obviously the application of chemicals and pesticides is also known to pose a risk to your water quality. The most commonly detected substance is MCPA, which has been detected in about half of the rivers in Ireland in accordance with the EPA's latest report. Just quickly looking at the hydromorphological issues, again, you have your poaching and around your riverbanks. Dredging and bank modification is a big one, and land drainage. Then you have your sediment and your nutrient losses and pathways to your water bodies. So again, huge amount of scope for nature-based solutions within this call, and which would go a long way in the border regions to deal with the issues that are there. Just quickly then, this is the map here is from the EPA PIP maps, the pollution impact potential maps. They have mapped all areas that have high risk losses for P and high risk losses of N. So the orange areas are areas that are high risk of losing N, and the blue areas are the high risk P. So as you can see, all of the border regions is high risk P. So again, lending back to the nature-based solutions, and they would be very, very effective in these areas. I've put a link there again to those maps, which are very, very useful. Also on those maps, they show the pathways on those PIP maps, so it gives you a good idea of where nature-based solutions and pathway interception measures could be put. So I'd encourage you to have a look at those. And just to touch then on works that are ongoing, you have LawPro, which is a local authority waters programme. They work in areas for action. I'll show a map in a minute of the priority areas for action. The Blue Dot programme, which works in the high status objective water bodies, your National Federation for Group Water Schemes, Rivers Trust. There's a water EIP coming on stream very shortly, which again will be looking at nature-based solutions and water of life and other life projects. So there's an awful lot going on in this space already, so I'd encourage you to have a look at each of those as well. This is just an example of a silt pond that was put into the Duhallow IRD as part of the Blue Dot programme. It was put down on a farm to collect pea runoff from a farm roadway. There's a stream just on the other side of that ditch there, and that's proving to be very effective. So that's just an example of works that are happening already. Just to look at the areas then, if you try to think back of that high PIP P map and the blue areas, you'll remember that there was a lot down here near in the Erne catchment and the Newry Fane Glyden D. And also, if you look on the EPA maps, there's a huge amount of information on the maps there. You can put in what the different pressures are. So if you put in the agricultural pressures onto that map, it'll show up all the water bodies that are particularly pressured by agricultural activities, and it's a very good indicator as to where work needs to be done. As I said, this map here shows the priority areas for action that LawPro are working in at the moment, and I've put links to each of those where you can find more information on those. So that's it really. Just to acknowledge, we do have a water quality issue. It's very clear from the stats that we've looked at. And looking at the right measure in the right place is what we need to look at. It's where all the policy is going, whether it's our own policies in water, the agriculture policies are all pointing in that direction. It's very, very, very important that it is the right measure in the right place. There's no point in putting in measures for N in an area where your risk is high P loss. Measures need to be targeted and to achieve more with less, and I think that links in well with the call that we're talking about today, and for multiple benefits that may encourage biodiversity and climate as well. And I have just left more links to web resources there that might be useful to you. So thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Emer. And just to reiterate what I said earlier, all of this will be available on the website in the next week or so. So don't worry if you can't get all the notes down or you can't see everything on the screen. We'll make sure that's available for you as a resource. Just before I ask Silke to come up for her presentation, just as well, if you've got any questions, we will have an opportunity towards the end of the session, where we'll take some questions. So if you've got anything, just make a note of it, and we'll come back to it after the presentations are finished. So at this point, just to welcome Silke Hartman, who is the Principal Scientific Officer at NIEA, and Silke will give a Northern Ireland view from a policy perspective. Thank you.
Which button is it? Right, okay, grand. Good morning, everybody. I've been invited to give you an overview of the policy interest from Northern Ireland in terms of water quality and the PEACEPLUS call. So my presentation roughly looks at three things this morning. Just a quick summary on the key intervention for investment area 5.3, the main policy drivers in Northern Ireland, and then available information and links. So let's get started. Investment area 5.3, I'm sure you know already, it has two main topics, which are around nature-based solutions and the use and transboundary movement of nutrients. So at the nature-based solutions, we would like applicants to look at pilots for nature-based solutions, for innovative nature-based solutions to restore catchments, and then on the nutrient side to look at soils, organic manures, chemical fertilizers, digesters, use sludge, etc., in the cross-border catchments. And then we have two almost supporting topics around behavior change and community-focused environmental learning resources. And those two can only take place in the areas where the main topics, shaded in blue here, take place. So behavior change really long initiatives which result in measurable change in behaviors or mindset of landowners, and then to develop and enhance community-focused environmental learning resources, increase in immunity value, and also consider linkages with nature recovery networks. So if we now look at our policies tab here, and I have selected 6 main policies. So the first ones are the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, followed by the Northern Ireland Programme for Government, the Climate Change Act, the Environment Strategy, River Basin Management Plan, and Water Policy. So I'm sure you all have heard about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which were published in 2015 as a blueprint for peace and prosperity. And the 3 main ones relating to our water, environment, and catchments are 6, 12, and 14. So 6 is around clean water and sanitation, and I picked out here the main points around improving water quality, that by reducing pollution, to protect and improve water-related ecosystems, including wetlands, rivers, aquifers, and lakes, and to implement integrated resource management, including transboundary cooperation, all by 2030. Well, I think that pretty much sounds like international river basin districts in SEUPB. So then development goal number 12 is responsible consumption and production, and it includes sustainable management and efficient use of natural resources. So water is one of them, and that's by 2030. And the management of chemicals, waste, and to reduce release to water and reduce impacts. That goal was actually for 2020. I don't think we have quite achieved it yet. And then the development goal number 14, life below water. So that's very marine focused, to prevent and reduce marine pollution, in particular from land-based activities, but also including reducing nutrient pollution by 2025. So it looks really here at the input coming from all the land-based activities and from the catchments that impact on the marine life and marine quality. So the program for government, the draft program for government was published in 2021. And since we don't have a functioning executive at the moment, it remains in draft. So DARA contributes to several outcomes of this wheel. The main one we contribute to is obviously, and I pulled it out here in green on the right-hand side, we live and work sustainably and protect the environment. But there are 3 other ones we support, and it's around we all enjoy long and healthy active lives. So, if you think about your catchments and what it supports in terms of tourism, amenity value, spare time, water-based sports, and so on and so on. Our economy is globally competitive, regionally balanced, and carbon neutral. So, the impact So it's really the sustainable use of land, but also the impact certain industry have on the water environment. And then people want to live, work, and visit here. Already touched upon tourism and so on. So as I say, this program for government remains in draft form, and there are no agreed indicators yet. But for the previous program for government, the soluble reactive phosphorus concentration in rivers was one of the indicators. And the slide here shows that the lowest concentration for SRP was measured in 2012 and has steadily increased since then. And between 2012 and 2021, we have a 51% increase in SRP content in the rivers, which is a statistically significant increasing trend. And really all kind of reductions that were achieved since 2006 have been reversed, unfortunately. So moving on to the Climate Change Act, which is a pretty new piece of legislation from 2022. It gives us binding targets to reduce methane emissions by 46% and carbon emissions by 100% by 2050. So the problem is that eutrophic surface water bodies also emit methane, and it can actually increase your methane emissions. So if we can reduce the eutrophic status of surface water bodies, which is caused by excess nutrients, mostly from sewage pressures and agricultural pressures, then we can also reduce those greenhouse gas emissions. So it's really a win-win situation. And just to paint the picture here, our surface water bodies are eutrophic. More than 50% of rivers, more than 80% of the lakes we monitor, and roughly 44% of the marine water bodies, so the transitional and coastal water bodies. The legislation also includes a requirement for all proposals and policies, and it's desirable that we use and support nature-based projects. Remember the investment area I showed in the first slide, nature-based solutions, and that it provides environmental benefits and protects human well-being and biodiversity. And that will, one of the delivery vehicles is the Green Growth Strategy. So the draft Green Growth Strategy is on our web pages as well. I haven't actually included here in the slideshow. Then the environment strategy, the draft one was published for consultation, and it will form the basis for a coherent and effective set of interventions that can deliver real improvements in the quality of the environment. The environment strategy will also form the basis for our future environmental improvement plan. And if you look here in the third column from the left, underwater, you can see the river basin management plan as one of those delivery vehicles, packages, whatever you would like to call it. So let's move on to the river basin management plan then. So if we look at the statistics published in 2021 for our surface water ecology, so that includes rivers, lakes, and the marine water bodies, you can see we have very little change in the ecological status from 32% to 31%. But what it really masks is we did have improvements in water body ecology, but that has been offset by deteriorations, and deteriorations aren't really allowed under the regulations, so have real problems there. For groundwater chemistry, the picture looks somewhat better, but there's a big but here. We don't have monitoring in roughly half of our groundwater bodies because we depend on the goodwill of third-party borehole owners to give us access to monitor. So as Emma said in her presentation, we know we have a problem, we know we need to do something about it, and hope you can help us with that. So already mentioned, the key pressures we have acting on our water bodies are excess nutrients, mostly from sewage-related infrastructure and agricultural land use practices. So this slide has been provided by research partners from Queen's and FB. And what Anya has plotted here is the volume of excess slurry material. So basically, she calculated based on stocking densities and field sizes what kind of the limit is for nitrogen application limits and has plotted here those areas that are over those limits. So you can see, you know, counties Armagh, a bit into Tyrone, and some of County Down, we do have real problems. So moving on to the next slide. That map is from 2021, but just gives you an impression about spatial location of AD plants. And once again, we seem to have a concentration around counties Armagh. And our problem is we don't really know where the digested goes. We have anecdotal information, for example, from an AD plant in kind of the Portadown, Craigavon, Lurgan area, that in the planning application says we are exporting AD digested to a farm in Newton Arts. And if you, so which is kind of north down direction, north on County Down. And when you look at those records, then that farm is exporting slurry as well. So kind of alarm bells goes off. What is really happening to the nutrient movement. And we are also aware that a lot of planning applications for those AD plants simply said, oh, we are exporting it to the Republic of Ireland. And then we are struggling to really work with nutrient balances. And that's really those two slides where the motivation for that second proposal came from in terms of intervention for that PEACEPLUS call. No, here we go. And that's just another graph from the Refocus project, which is a big international project that FB participated in, looking at substance flow for phosphorus. And it shows here that the P surplus that was measured on farms actually correlates quite well with the SRP concentration in rivers. So, you know, if we can reduce the excess nutrients lost to the water environment, we will see improvements. And one fact that this Refocus report makes is that there was a total loss of 1,500 tons of phosphorus to water bodies, and 62% of those 1,500 tons were coming from agriculture. And considering that it is a resource that is limited, we really need to move into a more sustainable use of that. And it comes back to what we had at the beginning, you know, sustainable economy and a sustainable agriculture, and really a circular economy, including circular agriculture. So the last policy I want to touch upon is this water wheel that has been developed by our water policy colleagues in the department. And it's really around the theme of water for life and water for nature, but also water for people. And it breaks down in those three big sectors, really, you know, about water quality, water quantity, wastewater, commercial and industry, land management, and recreation and tourism. And then finally, to our last section, what available information is out there. So we have data for download from open data, which includes monitoring data, but also spatial shapefiles. There are map viewers, both for DARA and the NIA. We also have data layers and shapefiles with status and element information. And you can request this information through SEUPB, who will redirect you to my team so that we can share that information with you. And we will also pass a list of available information, how to access it, to Bethany, and she can share it then with everybody. And then I just included a slide with links to the various policies mentioned in the presentation. That is really me. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks very much, Sulka. And again, lots of really relevant and good information there that you can refer to. And certainly we'll share what we can in terms of other resource material there. So at this point, I'd like to welcome Emer Bush, and Emer's going to be your main contact, as I said at the start, from this point forward during the pre-application support phase of your project development. So over to Emer, and she'll talk you through the support that she's going to offer. Thank you. There we go.
Hello, everybody. You're welcome. And I'm very pleased to be here to talk you through this part of the presentation, which is all around the pre-application support that I'm going to offer in collaboration with my colleagues in SEUPB and with the great support that has been given to date from the presentation from the two accountable departments. Those slides that you've just been through will be a great resource to you. They'll be up, I think, very soon, Declan, very soon on the website, and please go back to them and refer to them. I might just, Silke, before I go on with mine, go back to that slide there, because I'll refer to it. This is maps of priority areas in Northern Ireland, and it corresponds with one that Emer showed for priority areas in the border region of Ireland, and I'll refer to that slide in my presentation coming up. So, I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you put the foundations in place for your project. This is something new that SEUPB have piloted over the last year, has been very popular, and we hope that when it comes to you making a full application, that you'll be much more ready to jump onto the web portal and to make your application with greater knowledge and confidence of what it is we're seeking. There is a concept note on the table in front of you. Don't worry if you don't manage to get one, because you'll have to download it anyway in order to complete it. You'll find it on the website, download it there, and you've got 6 weeks to complete it and send it in. The concept note covers some, but not all, of the questions that will be in the application proper. And it really is a truncated version so that we don't put you to a huge amount of work at this stage whilst we ascertain whether or not this is the fund for you, this is the investment area for you, and whether or not you want to push on with the full application, which is a huge commitment and worth it if you do get the funding. As I said, it will help you put in place the foundations of your project so that you're prepared when the call opens. I, in collaboration with my colleagues, will give you an indication as to whether or not you're in the right space. I won't score it. I won't rank the applications. That's not my job to do that. It is my job to receive them in, to meet with you and your partners, to talk them through in detail, to dig up the drains in certain areas, and to talk about where the gaps are. You're not committing yourself to anything and setting anything in stone either. That's the other thing. You can shape and work at the application after you put the concept note in. It's just a preliminary opportunity for you to begin to shape applications and to get support in doing so and some guidance. I haven't clicked on. How do I click on? That one. Yeah. Okay, so it's downloadable from the website. You know how to get there because you used the same site to book in today. It's a very short form, as I said. In fact, I've done this for other parts of the PEACEPLUS programme, and the problem that applicants have had is staying within the word limit. Try to stay within the word limit if you can. The form will let you burst the word limit, but try to do that if you can, and I've given you plenty of space. Advice is available pre and post completion, so I'm available from today onwards. If you want to drop me an email, give me a call, we can talk. It avoids, as I said, putting you through the full onerous process if it's not for you, or it might well be for you. So please complete and return it no later than the 10th of May. That's 6 weeks from today. We have a few bank holidays and Easter in between then, so it's not that many working weeks when you take out your holidays. And that's my email on that slide. And feel free, use it, drop me an email. I know good few of you in the room, and I think those who know me will tell you that I will get straight back to you. I'll keep the lines of communication fully open. If I don't know an answer to a question, I will say I don't know, but I will find out for you, and I'll come back as quickly as I can. So to the concept note, what I'm going to do today is work through the questions in the concept note, give you an indication of the sort of answers we're looking for, and guide you in that. So the concept note has got guidance in the back, and it really pushes you along what the sort of information we're looking for. Have the slides of Emer and Silke, have those to hand. The policy that they've given us there, or that they've referred you to, is absolutely invaluable. Question 1 is, how have you identified the need for the bid you're putting forward? How does it align with the objectives of PEACEPLUS 5.3? And how will it enhance peace? And this, is, as Declan indicated earlier, will be new for an awful lot of you who have come via Interreg previously. And now, and I will stress this, and I will stress this in my meetings with you, this is the PEACEPLUS Programme. And regardless of this being largely an environmental theme, we must look at how this impacts peace and prosperity. And we'll look at that. The objective to enable a cross-border collaborative approach to management and improvement of water quality to address the requirements of the Water Framework Directive in selected cross-border catchments located in the programme area. I've repeated what's already been said, but because of how important it is, make sure that you're crystal clear in meeting the guideline. And the result is the development and management of cross-border water quality as well as catchment management programmes designed to enable freshwater bodies in cross-border river basins to achieve good or high status and an increased percentage of shared waters in the programme area with good or high status. So that, in some ways, question 1, it's easy. You should be able to address it very easily. Go to the slides where my colleagues have given you the policy links. Explain where your policy links are. And also look at the outputs and results for the programme. And the output indicators are that this is collectively across the number of projects that we will fund. And as Declan indicated, we are likely to fund around 4 projects out of the 21 million. Of those 4 projects, collectively, you will achieve 3 jointly developed solutions and 1 strategy and action plan jointly developed. The output indicator is achieved during the course of the project. The result indicator is achieved at the end of the project. So at the end of a 4-year funded project, those projects funded will have collective result indicators of 3 solutions taken up or upscaled by organisations and 1 joint strategy and action plan taken up by organisations. So I want to know how your proposal will contribute to these output and result indicators. And that's question 1. Okay, question 2. I've got quite a few slides for this, and forgive me if they're wordy, and they are wordy. But you can go back, download these, look at them carefully. In the absence of a call document, which is not available to you just yet, these will be valuable slides. This is the question, as far as I recall, where we've given you the greatest word count, because this is where we want to know about the project, what it is your partnership is seeking to do. So the quality of this is about the quality of your project, the design of your project, and how you will achieve your outputs and results, and you'll achieve them through actions. So here's some examples of actions. Specs go on. I'll read it all out. Number 1, a pilot or pilots for nature-based solutions or innovative nature-based solutions to restore catchments, including implementation of the necessary conservation measures. And in the previous presentations, you've had really good examples of this and much more interesting slides with illustrations of what these look like. So, for example, peat restoration, water management measures to reduce runoff, sediment loss, nutrient loss. Also, the co-benefits relating to pesticide losses to waterways to reduce impacts from flooding. So what green infrastructure you'll use. Another example of an action around a catchment strategy might be an operational strategy for dealing with nutrients, soil, organic measures, chemical fertilisers, digestate, sewage sludge, and also transboundary movements and cross-border catchments to include elements such as flow of nutrients, tracking systems, innovative solutions for optimum sustainable utilisation of all nutrients. You can go back and read these in your own time. And the next slide's giving you a few more examples as well. Another example there, in an initiative which results in a measurable change in behaviours and mindsets of landowners. It's an important element of this is the community outreach, is community cohesion, bringing communities together, and I'll talk about that as well in relation to your peace impacts, because that's some of the areas in which you will probably draw upon to demonstrate why this is a good fit with PEACEPLUS. Number 4 example, a project legacy initiative which will develop or enhance community-focused environmental learning resources to improve understanding of cross-border catchment from environmental, cultural, social or economic views, and or improve amenity value through nature recovery networks. So there is some repetition here from slides that have gone earlier, I've noticed, but it just goes, I suppose, underlines how important it is to show, and I can't remember who said it might have been Silke's slide, projects should demonstrate that new solutions that go beyond the existing practice in the sector or the programme area, or they might adapt or implement already developed solutions. So it might be something new, or you might be taking and adding value and adapting. I'm still on question 2. No, I'm not going to read through all of these. There are 2 slides here of actions, of what the actions might look like. There's 6 in each slide. Really important. A project does not need to meet all of these. Don't be alarmed to say, goodness, what are you expecting us to do? Collectively, we would expect the projects that we fund to collectively implement these actions, and a part of my role will be to go through the concept notes and see how collectively what these actions all add up to across the projects and bids that come in. So I'll read through some of them. Projects must show how they contribute to some of the following: quantifiable improvements in water quality and quantity, and you might meet a lot of them, but maybe not all. A decrease in soluble reaction phosphorus, SRP, nitrate nutrient concentration in selected water bodies across the programme area, an improved understanding and knowledge of nutrient management and biodiversity through cross-border collaboration, financial savings within the programme area agricultural sector, linked to that, decreased public expenditure arising from water treatment costs. I'm not reading all of that. Improvement to designated sites through implementation of necessary conservation measures, which may include nutrient management. And the next 6, and you'll be able to get these off the website, so don't worry about scribbling it all down. A reduction in flooding risks within areas identified as vulnerable. And we've had 2 sets of maps showing us vulnerable areas and the focus areas. I'll come back to those in a moment. The development of nature-based solutions for catchment management and specifically targeted buffers. The development of suitable buffer strips to protect river basins from the threat of agricultural pollutants. Better public engagement with nature facilitated through the development of nature recovery networks. Increased resilience of catchments against potential future impacts and climate change, and protecting the contribution that high status water bodies make to biodiversity, etc. You can read the end of that sentence for yourself. I'm sure that your light bulbs are going on, and I hope that many of you have come here knowing what your project idea is, and you're able to nod and say, yes, okay, tick, tick, I can achieve some of those, and I know where the project is going, I know what our partnership can deliver on. Question 3 talks about the cross-border nature of the project. So the core area is what we talk about in PEACEPLUS language, and the core area is all of Northern Ireland and the 6 border counties of Ireland. And every project that comes into any part, particularly, let's just focus in this area of the PEACE programme, to 5.3 must be cross-border in nature. I want to know what geographical areas, what cross-border catchments your project will cover. And I'll refer you to Emer O'Keefe's slide number 26, which gave you those locations for the border region, and Silke's slide 48 that I kind of I threw up at the start of this presentation. And that gives you some of those geographical areas. They're Erne, Fane, Glyde, Dee, those sort of areas are coming up for the border region. Roe, Struhl, South Down, Lagan, they're named in those slides. You can go back and look at them. More than that, however, I want to know about how your project is cross-border and the basis of how it has been developed, planned, and how it will be implemented on a cross-border basis, not on a back-to-back basis, but on a real collaborative cross-border basis. It's use of staff from both sides of the border, how you'll work together, how that team will be a cross-border team, working together for a common goal, a common purpose, that it is a coherent cross-border project. The community focus, that's come up a number of times today, so that there will be a community focus on your project and environmental learning, but on both sides of the border, and hopefully it would be added value and it would do your project good, it would score better were that to be very much on a cross-border basis for the communities with whom you engage. And is it inclusive of multiple communities? Other parts, the more traditional parts of the PEACEPLUS programme that are dealing with good relations and community relations, will talk about the two communities that traditionally have been in Northern Ireland, the border region, and obviously that's expanded out now to encompass new communities and migrant communities. Are you using a shared approach, a shared design on either side of the border? Is that cropped up in your collaboration? And can you demonstrate collaboration as a clear and measurable outcome? So it's something that we want you to, when you come to evaluation, I'll talk about that in a minute, that your collaboration and cross-border collaboration is an important, very important part for you to evaluate as well. Question 4 is around duplication and displacement. You've got really good slides to refer back to on the policies north and south, and that will help you as well answer this question. Have issues of duplication and displacement been considered in your project? Tell us about that. Tell us about how you are not duplicating or displacing, and rather how you're adding value with EU funding. And I know in the context of budget cuts and the drive here today, I was listening to Radio Ulster, and it was all about the demise of the EU funding and what's coming in to replace it. But we still need to look at the additionality of the EU funding and the added value that this is bringing. How does your project show an evolution of ideas? Some of you, I know I've spoken to some of you before we began today. Some of you were funded under the previous Interreg project, and I know that you're coming here perhaps building on previous projects, and it's not quite as simple as that, because we've got clear priorities and clear objectives and clear indicators that 5.3 requires you to meet. So if you are building on a previous project, make sure that you demonstrate, yes, that you're building on it, but how it meets the requirements and the objectives of this call. Is your project likely to impact upon and/or complement similar existing or planned provision? We've got the purple dot system on your badges. You can talk to, make contacts today, find out what each other is doing. This is a small region, and whether or not you can stay for lunch and have a chat or make contact afterwards and share emails and share contact details, please talk amongst yourselves and collaborate and find out what ideas there are, and make sure that you're complementing each other's projects. How will you avoid and mitigate unintended consequences? I think I talk about the risk register in the next question as well, but I will ask you to look at risks and how you will mitigate some risks in terms of your project planning. Question 5. This is the partnership and implementing arrangements. So it is likely that the concept note will be completed by the lead partner, I would imagine, in collaboration with the partners. You'll work together, but probably you'll give responsibility to the lead partner to do that. So I'll want to know who's managing in terms of whether or not it's lead partner, but also who might be managing on the partnership team and what the roles and responsibilities look like. How your team is suitably qualified and experienced to deliver on your project. And I know that when it comes to the outworkings of the water quality catchment part of it, that's your expertise. You'll have no problem, and I would imagine, demonstrating your expertise and that you've got the right staff to implement that. I'm also interested in the supplementary staff because these are huge projects. They're to be delivered in a relatively tight time frame, 2024 to 2027. 4 years sounds like a long time, but if the average grant size is around 5 million, there's a huge amount of back office work to be done. So in terms of administrative staff, financial staff, communication staff and evaluation staff, all of whom are eligible to support your field staff, not whatever particular technical names they may have, please make sure that you build in sufficient support to make sure that you can smoothly roll out this project. And there is a project officer here today, and he asked me to specifically emphasise that need for financial support in particular. So that's really important. Has the lead partner and supporting partners, I'll be looking at this, have you got the necessary organisational capacity to manage a multi-annual project of this nature? It's not to say that this partnership needs, whatever you propose, needs to have delivered a project of this scale exactly as the partnership is composed now, but have the partners in some shape or form a track record of delivering a technical and large-scale project? How will you be accountable for the smooth project delivery? Tell me about the procedures that you're going to put in place to roll this out. How will you adequately resource the project? So that's both in terms of, well, this is really in terms of staffing. And allocating responsibility of actions across the partners. So in those couple of really busy slides that I had with 6 actions in each, will you divide up actions per partner, or will those actions be shared, jointly shared between them? And what practical arrangements do you have in place to identify and mitigate risk? So what sort of meeting schedules will you have? What sort of project boards will you have? What milestones will you put in place? Really, a really important one in terms of technically being able to roll out the project. And the last question in the concept note is around value for money. It's a really high-level budget that if any of you have had a chance to look at what's on the table, it really just asks for 3 areas for staff, office admin and T&S. I've delivered pre-application support for a number of investment areas. What's really helpful, and it's kind of impossible for you to complete that without having a spreadsheet in the background. It may not be as detailed as when you come to go for full application, and in which case it will be very detailed, but certainly in order to build a budget that you can stand over, that's fairly robust, please work out in a spreadsheet supporting that, what your staff looks like. Your office and admin will be calculated this time around on a flat rate basis, 15% of direct costs, and your travel and subsistence will also be calculated on a flat rate of 7% of direct staff costs, designed to make it easier for you when it comes to claims. So when it comes to budget, what I'll be looking at are what staff have you built in, what are the scales, are they at an appropriate level? Are there enough of them to deliver what it is you're seeking to do? If you're tendering for elements, competitive tendering must be followed. And I know it's hard at concept note stage and even at application stage to know quite how to get the budget right. And we're in a period of steep inflation, and that's very challenging as well. Perhaps we're over the worst of it, and perhaps you're in a better position now to budget than you may have been 6 months ago when things were spiralling. But, we just have to budget as carefully as you can, given what we know the costs are at the minute. make sure that you know how each budget line has been arrived at, even though the concept note doesn't really give you a great deal of scope for that. But when it comes to our meeting, we can dig into more detail on that. So that you should have supporting information on how your assumptions have been arrived at. And goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway, every budget must demonstrate economic use of public expenditure. So it should represent value for money. A little bit on the lead partner role. I'm not sure if we're, maybe a quarter of you in the room would represent the lead partners and 3/4 partners. Don't know how it breaks down or with the, but this is an incredibly important role. Ultimately, the lead partner enters into a contract with SEUPB. The lead partner will devolve responsibility via a partnership agreement to its partners, but the buck will stop with the lead partner when it comes to the letter of offer and the contract with the funder. In acting as a lead partner, those of you that have been lead partner before will fully understand all of this. You've got huge responsibilities. First and foremost, project coordination, delivering what it is you've signed up, that delivering on your indicators, your outputs and results, and then under that, delivering on the actions. So coordinating the project, getting the application in, and then delivering on it. Financial management is a huge one to ensure strict budget control, eligible and timely claims, sufficient cash flow, because this programme pays in arrears. So any organisation will need to have sufficient cash flow in place in order to be out of pocket while your claim is processed and reimbursed, which is always a tricky one. And the lead partner is the organisation who will accept risk in the event of ineligibility and failure to meet targets. In terms of financial management, this time around, the project partner's expenditure will be vouched, what's called first level control, by an external provider, not by SEUPB. And I should have said that should be factored into your budget. But we will still administer the first level control, that is vouching the expenditure of the lead partner. The lead partner is responsible for all reporting, ultimately to SEUPB, financial, admin, evaluation, quarterly returns, any phone calls or training or anything will go through the lead partner. And communication as well. You will have stringent communication requirements in line with EU regulations, and that's the lead partner who will be responsible for undertaking that. You might, again, say to your partners that they've got, you will devolve responsibility to them. Training. But that level of training, I'm talking about training that SEUPB offers you. So it might be to do, if you get to the stage of getting a grant, it might be to do with the online portal when you put claims in, and we'll be in touch with you with that, with relevant policies and procedures, and with the evaluation. And you should have evaluation built into your budget as well. I should have reminded you about that. In short, the lead partner accepts overall responsibility for ensuring implementation of the entire project, and it is a significant role. So you started off here, the whole process, by completing the concept note, by getting it in as soon as possible. The sooner, I will not wait until all the concept notes are in the 10th of May before I contact you. If you get a concept note in sooner than that, I will make contact and establish a meeting. If you need to take all that time, that's fine, please do. If you need to talk to me before then, and I've drip feed the questions as you complete the concept note, please feel free to contact me. My concluding remarks, I've maybe jumped onto them, are take time today to hang around, build your partnership, have conversations with people, have follow-up emails, and collaborate. Use today to network and find out about each other's ideas to ensure complementarity, as I've already spoken about. Don't bite off more than you can chew. It's a fantastic opportunity, and the PEACEPLUS Programme is something that the core area of the region, Northern Ireland, the border region, are very proud of, SEUPB is very proud of, and we really want to have excellent projects to leave a very real and lasting legacy for peace and prosperity in the region. So make sure that this is something that you really want and that you can deliver. I was speaking to somebody earlier who was talking about not being funding led, not chasing the money just because it says 21 million euro and getting overly excited. Make sure this really fits the requirements of your strategic objectives, your organisational objectives and what it is you want to do. Don't shoehorn yourself into a programme because there's big bucks there. Think about the finance. Can you manage the cash flows? Another really important one of projects of this scale. Have clarity of purpose. You must, and I'll come back to the fact that this is now PEACEPLUS, you must meet the requirements of the investment area. And in addition to what many of you have done previously under Interreg, you must be able to articulate your contribution to peace and prosperity for Northern Ireland and the border region. And the final one, know how you are going to monitor your targets and impacts. This is a huge amount of money. So from the outset, I want you to be able to know how you are going to be able to measure the difference that you have made as a result of 5-6 million euro of investment for the region. I'm looking forward to getting to know you over the next few weeks as we work together. And I hope it's a really fruitful foundational experience for you at this part of the programme. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Emer. It's a really comprehensive overview of the process that's ahead of you. And I think Emer's probably summarised things quite well there in that last slide. But I suppose, do try and make the most of this resource that's here now. Emer's available, as Emer said, she's worked across some of the other investment areas. It is a process that's worked quite well to date. So do please make the most of it. And as I say, we'll have all of this information up on the website, including the video of today, so you can go back and refer to all this as you're working through your concept note. A couple of points just to make. It is informal. This, it's the feedback will be verbal. It's through meetings, and it's informal. As Emer said, it's not scored. It's not a formal part of the process. So in that sort of context, it's not mandatory either. But certainly from our perspective, we strongly encourage it. We'd strongly encourage you to engage in this. You've nothing to lose by doing that. But it is important just to note that it's not scored. And it's not a mandatory part of things. Ultimately, I suppose what we want to see is high quality projects coming forward and applications. So we don't want anybody to be wasting their time on developing a full application without engaging with us. So that's really what this is about as well. It's about trying to make sure that you're going in the right direction, that you're in the right area of the programme, and there's something there for you to progress. Emer's touched on it, I've touched on it, but the peace and prosperity angle really is really important, and it is new for probably a lot of you in the room, in terms of these types of applications. But do please begin to think in those terms as well as you're developing things. And again, as Emer said, take account of the indicators. Have a look at those and some of the detail around that. It is, we've touched on partnership today and, the opportunities for that today. There is a QR code, and I'm reliably informed if you scan that, I think it takes you to a form that you then can complete, and then you can upload your details directly onto our website. So again, that's another resource, another tool that you can use, as well as obviously the networking over lunch and all of that. So before we finish the session, I want to open it up to the floor. There's a couple of microphones, and if you can just use those. If there's any questions or any points that you want to make, we'll do our best to answer those. What I should also say as well, coming away from today, another thing that we're constantly working on is frequently asked questions. So as part of this process, you will have a series of FAQs that will be up on the website as well. So we'll continue to develop those as questions come from today, and also when they're passed through to the Emer, she'll talk to us and we'll make sure that those are updated. So